Today we delve back into the history of Joseon Korea. No, not the Korea of General Kim, but the Korea founded by General Yi Seong-gai. Let's look at a simple observation. In the past, there was a king named Taejo. He had two brothers, one named Jeongjong, one named Taejong. In addition, he also had a younger sister named Queen Sinui. Taejo first married Queen Sinui, and the two of them together gave birth to the eldest son, Yi Banggwa. Then this eldest son, Yi Banggwa, turned around and married Queen Jangan. Queen Jangan was the second daughter of Jeongjong. As a result, this Queen Jangan then turned around and fell in love with uncle Taejong, and moreover gave birth with Taejong to one Yi Bangwon. And whom did this Yi Bangwon marry? He married Queen Wongyang. Queen Wongyang was previously a clan daughter of Jeongjong. Afterwards, the eldest son of Yi Bangwon, Haizhong, first married Queen Sohyeon. This Queen Sohyeon was the daughter of Jeongjong. Then he also married Queen Jonghui. This Queen Jonghui was also the daughter of Jeongjong. It may sound somewhat complicated, and in fact it is indeed not simple. As we've touched on before, this kind of complex intermarriage was a hallmark of the preceding Goryeo dynasty, and it often led to royal decline. The quality of the royal bloodline diminished, and the entire kingdom was thrown into constant chaos. One day, it was the Wen family rebelling. The next, the Ho family. After them, the Dragon Road officers, and then the Wen family would rise up again. It was a cycle of turmoil. Finally, King Gongyang of Goryeo ordered General Yi Seong-gai to lead an army of over 30,000 men to seize the Liaodong Peninsula from the Ming Dynasty, which had just been established by Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang. Yi Seong-gai didn't hesitate. He turned his army around, deposed King Gongyang, and established his own dynasty, Joseon, also known as the Yi Dynasty. This brought up a critical problem: how to maintain the royal lineage. If they followed Goryeo's model of marrying within the family, they risked the same decline. But if they only married into powerful noble families, those families could easily overpower the king. This is where Minister Jang Duchin came in with a brilliant, if complicated, solution. His idea? Marry into all the noble families of Joseon, not just one. But wouldn't that still undermine the king's power? Jang Duchen laughed at the suggestion. He argued that if the king married into just one noble family, he'd have one powerful father-in-law. But if the king was related by marriage to all the noble families, then every noble would essentially be a father-in-law, creating a clever balance of power. As strange as it sounds, it actually worked. Under Jang Duchen's plan, all the major noble families became part of the royal family's extended network. Each prince was backed by a different noble faction. The fiercer the nobles fought amongst themselves, the safer the king's position became. Jang Duchen believed that with a clear system of succession, like primogeniture, once a king was chosen, the fighting would stop. But in practice, this created a huge new problem. The princes quickly realized that even if a younger brother had no right to the throne, if he simply eliminated all his older brothers, he would become the heir. And so the internal strife among the princes began all over again. To counter this, Jang Duchen introduced the concept of a retired king. A still powerful former king could transfer the throne to his successor, theoretically keeping the other princes in line. But this system, also seen in places like Vietnam and Japan, had its own flaws. If the new king was too weak, he could be deposed. If the retired king held on to too much power, he risked being assassinated by the new king. So, Jang Duchen's grand plan resulted in a pyramid of conflict. First, the nobles fought each other, then the princes fought each other, and finally the king and the princes fought each other. It was complete internal chaos. We see this play out right from the start. Yi Seong-gai, a former Goryeo minister, overthrew the dynasty by killing several of his brothers and imprisoning his rivals, a classic coup. Later, scholar officials like Yi Yu staged their own uprisings to claim the throne, continuing the endless cycle of intrigue. Eventually, King Seongjong tried to fix this by formalizing class structures and introducing civil service exams. But this often just made things worse, as political factions learned to manipulate the exams to place their own people in positions of power. In early Joseon, two main factions emerged, the Old Learning faction and the Sarim faction. The Sarim later split into Greater and Lesser Sarim, which then split into the Eastern and Western factions, which then split into the southern and northern factions. The internal fighting just kept splintering and continuing through generations. By the time of King Seonjo, it became clear that Joseon's conflicts weren't really about policy or systems. It seemed to be a pure, unadulterated love of infighting. Seeing that all the noble families had become the king's fathers-in-law, he tried to restore older systems but met with fierce opposition. To get around marriage restrictions, some lineages were even adopted into other families just to make a marriage legitimate. Let's look at another example. King Seonjong married Queen Jihyun of the Han clan and also had Queen Joseon of the Gwan clan. With Queen Jihyun, he had Prince Yeonjun. With Queen Joseon, he had Prince Jinzeng, who would become King Jeongjong. The relationships that followed were incredibly complex. Prince Yeonjun first married Queen Jangjong of the Yi clan, his own aunt's niece. Then he married Queen Munjong of the Pap clan, who was the niece of his first wife. Yeonjun also forcibly took other consorts, including the wives of high-ranking officials and relatives of previous kings. When the practice of intermarrying with noble families was abandoned, it led to frequent rebellions by ministers. Figures like Jang Seo-kyum and Yun Won-hyung staged coups, placing new kings like King Jeongjong and King Myeongjong on the throne. Later, other ministers helped King Seonjo rise to power through similar interventions. King Gwanghaegun, in an attempt to end the internal royal conflict, simply killed all his brothers and imprisoned his mother. But even that wasn't enough. The ministers rebelled again, putting King Injo on the throne. King Injo's logic was that uprisings happened because people were dissatisfied with the current king. So he believed if he eliminated anyone better than himself, he would, by default, be the best. He went so far as to kill his own eldest son, the designated heir, just to consolidate his power. Beyond these internal causes, Joseon's conflicts were also heavily influenced by foreign powers. From its very founding, Joseon practiced a policy of serving the great. Essentially, don't provoke us, we won't provoke you. But if you attack us, you become our new father. The stability of Joseon's kings often depended on support from Chinese emperors. When power shifted in China, Joseon ministers would sometimes bypass their own king and form alliances with foreign powers like the Qing, Japan, or Russia, further eroding royal authority. By 1910, Japan had fully taken control of Korea, forcing marriages between the Joseon royal family and the Japanese imperial family, merging these complex family networks. Even as recently as 2005, after the death of the last Joseon prince Yuju, different factions among his descendants were still symbolically vying for succession, continuing that centuries-old tradition of internal disputes. And so the internal struggles of the Joseon royal family persisted across centuries, shaped by strategic marriages, factionalism, and foreign intervention. Even though the monarchy ended, the legacy of political maneuvering, internal strife, and intricate family alliances continues to echo in Korean history. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the chaotic history of the Joseon Dynasty, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content. See you next time.